That'd be better. It's a little too cold out here. Can't play with you. Peace. All right, today we're going to talk about ideological processes of African-centered opposition. The foregoing discussion only hints at the social political construction and power of the white-owned and controlled media establishment system, a system founded on political and economic oppression and exploitation of the masses in general and of African peoples in particular. In the aftermath of that discussion, we need not belabor, B-E-L-A-B-O-R, belabor, the need for an aggressive black-owned and controlled countercultural media information network. In the aftermath of that discussion, we need not belabor the need for an aggressive black-owned and controlled countercultural media information network, or we not need to procrastinate with the labor. We need to jump right on it. That's a new word for today. B-E-L-A-B-O-R, belabor. Black-owned and controlled, pardon me. However, to counter the propagandistic white media establishment, the Black Media Information Network must be supported and financed by black-owned businesses, which in turn must be primarily supported by black consumers. The black press today is not a free or powerful press because it lacks these necessary supporting pillars. The more successful and wealthy the black media become, meaning the more they are financed by white-owned corporate advertising, the less free and weaker they become. Fear of incurring the disapproval of their white advertisers effectively prevents them from providing their audiences with truthful, critically astute, and informative analysis of the nature of white domination. Forget they're providing a detailed political, scientific, political, economic, social scientific, historical, and cultural education to their audiences, an education which would revolutionize the consciousness and which would revolutionize their consciousness and their exploiters. I'm so sorry. I'd be so stuck into understanding for myself, I forget I'm actually reading for the enjoyment of others, but primarily as a means to give my son and daughter, my nieces and my nephews, my brothers, my sisters, my aunts and uncles, my relatives, those I care for and those I hope to stand in unison with. The more successful and wealthy the black media become, meaning the more they are financed by white-owned corporate advertising, the less free and weaker they become. Fear of incurring the disapproval of the white advertisers effectively prevents them from providing their audiences with truthfully, critically astute and informative analysis of the nature of white domination. Forget they're providing a detailed political, scientific, political, economic, social, scientific, historical, or cultural education to their audiences, an education which would revolutionize their consciousness and prescribe the practical means for overthrowing their oppressors and exploiters. This media fears becoming a focal establishment for politically, socially, and economically organizing a truly nationalistic black American community. If an African-centered liberation movement is to be successful, it must rescue the collective African mind and soul from the clutches of Eurocentric and non-Afrocentric ideology. If an African-centered liberation movement is to be successful, it must rescue the collective African mind and soul from the clutches of Eurocentric and non-Afrocentric ideology. Such a movement must organize itself for a struggle to the death against the continuing internalization of self-defeating, self-destructive ideas by African peoples. It must unite these peoples around the ideology of Afrocentrism and inculcate within their breast a life-saving, life-giving, liberating African-centered consciousness and identity. It must incite the peoples to new self-knowledge, to the discovering and development of creative operative strategies, social relations and arrangements, new values and visions with which they will break asunder forever the shackles of white supremacy. These ends can only be attained if the Afrocentric movement goes on an ideological offensive with an overpowering vengeance. The powers that be, i.e., the ruling white male elite, has already sensed the tremendous power potential of ideological Afrocentrism and is loudly sounding the alarms. For no one knows better than this establishment the power ideology can generate. For no one knows better than this establishment the power ideology can generate when it imbues a critical mass of people with a rational. Oh, I like how you said that. For no one knows better than this establishment the power ideology can generate when it comes. For no one knows better than this establishment the power ideology can generate when it imbues a critical mass of people with the rational for action and revolution. A review of the most important white mass market publications such as Time, Newsweek magazines, newspapers, e.g. the New York Times, books, e.g. the Disuniting of America, radio and television programs, academic struggles over curricula of inclusion, Afrocentric curricula, and the like. Pardon me, hold on, I just want to make sure I got all of it. Pages, I think I did, yeah, I did. What quickly convinces that the ruling establishment and its cohorts are mounting a compressive campaign against the Afrocentric movement, that this coordinated offensive makes use of every possible weapon in the Eurocentric propaganda armamentarium. I don't know what it is about the day in these words, but this is a new one, right? ARMAMENTARIUM. That this coordinated offensive makes use of every possible weapon in the Eurocentric propaganda armamentarium indicates just how dependent the white power elite is on the indoctrination of the African masses by Eurocentric ideology, and more important, its indoctrination by self-alienating, self-defeating, self-destructive, self-subordinating ideologies, attitudes, social relations, and behavioral orientations. Any Afrocentric ideology which successfully induces African peoples to shed Eurocentric ideologies, attitudes, relations, and orientations will at one and the same time induce them to shed themselves of their subordination and white supremacy. In addition, this revolutionary ideology would empower African peoples to overthrow their European masters and non-European exploiters and to enjoy the bounty of their own labor, lands, resources, and humanity. To these ends, the white male ruling elite and the white nations are opposed. For them, African liberation, independence, and prosperity is a zero-sum solution, i.e., and real African gains added to European losses. It is in this light that the ruling white elite and the Eurocentric ideology It is in this light that the ruling white elite and the Eurocentric ideological establishment and controls have seen fit to subject the Afrocentric movement and its ideological arm to an intellectual COINTELPRO. The militant police erected COINTELPRO of the 1960s and 70s decimated African-centered armed resistance groups and radical ideological encampments. I'm reading this like it is in this light that the ruling white elite and the Eurocentric ideological It is in this light that the ruling white elite and the Eurocentric ideological establishment of the controls have seen fit to subject the Afrocentric movement and its ideological arm to an intellectual COINTELPRO. The militant police erected COINTELPRO in the 1960s and 70s decimated African-centered armed resistance groups and radical ideological encampments in the African-American community through outright police murders and executions, malicious espionage, propaganda campaigns, prosecution, personal character assassination, and intimidation. Ideological warfare was also mounted by the ruling elite against the nascent NASCENT ideology of Black Power and the Black Power movement. In some interesting ways, the Afrocentric movement represents the resurrection of Black Power and its transcendence. In its current struggle to defeat the Afrocentric movement, the ruling establishment has resorted to its old strategic tactics and invented new ones. The process of discrediting Afrocentric ideology, discrediting its rationales, undergirding thought and scholarship, assassinating the character of its proponents, intimidating, isolating, and disemploying them is in full throttle. A relatively new wrinkle in the ruling elite's strategy involves the invention and employment of vastly increased numbers of a species of Africans referred to as neoconservatives. These academic Uncle Toms and Thomasinnas who occupy chairs in prestigious white elite institutions are the war dogs of the establishment whose purpose is to accomplish two of the central ends of elite propaganda discussed above, to prevent among African American peoples the dissemination of an Afrocentric ideology that effectively challenges the basic assumptions which justify and undergird white supremacy, and to thwart coalescence of an African-centered consciousness and identity among African peoples through the generation of ideological confusion, fragmentation, and contradiction. The appointment by the white ruling elite of neoconservative blacks to chairs in their the appointment by the white ruling elite of neoconservative the appointment by the white ruling elite of neoconservative blacks to chairs in their most prestigious universities, underwriting their publications, permitting them editorial space in their most influential publications, and the providing them with the valuable electronic media interviews only hints at the fact that the ruling white establishment needs to use all and every means at its disposal to maintain ideological supremacy over the African world, the key to its supremacy. Black neoconservatives write white propaganda in blackface. Their primary goal was to try and defeat the conscientization of African peoples, more dangerous than their writings, which are generally, I'll spell it for you. Black neoconservatives write white propaganda in blackface. Their primary goal is to try and defeat the conscientization, conscientization of African peoples, more dangerous than their writings, which are generally repudiated by the African community when and if they are read or discussed, is the possibility that these academicians, you tell me, as heads of African studies and related departments, will use their positions to indoctrinate future African American teachers, professors, and intellectuals, in addition to students pursuing other vocations with ideologies compatible with white supremacy. If the graduate students of these academicians I think that's how you pronounce it, academicians and intellectuals, in addition to students pursuing other vocations with ideologies compatible with white supremacy. If the graduate students of these academicians go on to become heads of African studies departments across the country, as well as influential journalists, columnists, community leaders, and the like, the Afrocentric movement will be markedly hampered, if not completely thwarted, in its great leap forward. To a measurable degree, the pressure to remove outstanding Afrocentric chairs in African studies is already moving apace. A number of these chairs have been replaced by academic times, and many African studies departments have been restricted in their scope and squeezed dry of life as a result. Next time, we'll read on the lack of an Afrocentric ideology network. Cool? Cool. I hope your today is great. I hope your tomorrow is greater. Peace. Let's go. Oh, you know what? Before I go, let me show you some of the other stuff I did. What I did. Made some waist beads, little butterfly. Yeah, I'm saying waist beads. Got the blue and white butterfly. I forgot the sorority colors, but I tried to get something similar to that going. Bracelet and necklace, you know what I'm saying? A little something different today. What else I got going on here? I think that's about it. Couple of bracelets or anklets. Earrings. You know, a little something, something. You can text 716-256-7569. I ship nationwide. Hit me up. Get something unique, something personal yours with a little bit of this positivity added on. One. Peace.